Welcome to RPAC's new exhibition opening. This is a show that we're very proud of. We have some amazing work from our resident artists that show every show. They create over at the RPAC Art Center, and then they come over here and hang their art. And then we have a wonderful guest artist by the name of John C. Otis. I will get that right by the end of the night. And he has written a book, and he has some amazing illustrations. Did his book like an illuminated manuscript, and we'll be talking to him later. So the first thing I wanted to say is why we're doing this. So Facebook Live is a new format for us. We usually have very active openings, some food, some wine going on, and people just stroll in and get to see the art in person, which there is absolutely no substitute for. We apologize that we're not able to do this. However, we are open from 12 to 5, Monday through Thursday, 12 to 6, 12 to 7 on Friday and Saturday, and 12 to 6 on Sunday. These hours have not changed. We don't get a lot of traffic at one time, so it is safe. We have some great COVID procedures. We went through a deep cleaning. I am actually wearing my mask as I get more than 6 feet away from somebody. Right now I'm talking without it, and our artists will be doing the same, but everybody will be at a safe distance from them while they speak. So on top of that, we went to this format because of all of the uptick in cases. And of course, I think it cannot go without mentioning all the deaths that have happened from COVID and all the people who have lost loved ones, all the survivors who are still having lingering effects from COVID, and how much this has changed just our entire way of being, with life, with work, with each other. And I didn't want to go without acknowledging all of that. So I wanted to ask for a moment of silence from everybody to acknowledge everybody who has been affected by this pandemic so far, and a small wish or prayer for everybody going forward that will be affected. So if we may observe a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you guys for acknowledging that. Okay, so here we are. What we're going to do is we're going to be kind of going around, looking at the art, talking to all the artists. We're going to wait on John, our visiting artist, for a little while. All I'm going to do is tease you about him for right now. And we're going to concentrate on our visiting artist. How are we doing on time for Steve Leiker?
6:20. Well, 6:04.
Okay, so 6:10 I thought.
We have 5 minutes.
Okay, great. Do we have something else to?
Lily is on, so we...
Oh, do you want to talk? Is Lily ready?
Lily, if you're ready, we can...
Is Lily acknowledging? Okay, so I'm going to introduce Lily's work first. So come on over here. Well, first let's show this one image right here. So this item is not for sale. It is called The Evening of the Sea Land Creature. So this is a beautiful piece. It is not for sale, but prints are available, and she also does commission work. So we can also move over here to our larger piece. It is for sale, of course. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Lily. So Lily is a local artist. She is also a resident, not to mention an amazing human being. Her ability to give to those around her and be a part of the community is unparalleled, and it also shows in the love she puts into her artwork and the hope that she inspires by her artwork. She has been an artist with us, and she also works at the Prospector Theater and also works for a garden, an organic garden. So she does a lot of work around town. She's always giving. She loves poetry, and one of the things I can say is her work is poetry. You can really feel the motion and the play of colors. She uses a lot of metallics in her work and even some sparkles. So I'd like to open it up to questions and for Lily to say a few things about her own work.
Lily, I can't find you to add you to the video.
Okay. So we're waiting to find Lily. I can tell you that you can find all of Lily's work on rpacgallery.com under Lily Furtick. Her last name is spelled Fertic, and if you want any information on her, we can always direct message you the information. And I also want to let you know that she can do custom work too. Come and look at your space, find colors that you respond to, kind of talk to you about your goals. For decor, she does a lot of that kind of work for people around town. And she's definitely a staple here, and she's sold many pieces of art with us, and we're really proud of her work.
You can also ask questions through the comments.
Okay. Oh, and you can also ask questions through the comments if you have any that you want to ask either directly to Lily or to RPAC here. Okay. If not, can I have a card? Hold on 1 second. We're getting kind of set up. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to mention is we do a lot of cross promotions with other art organizations in town, as RPAC Gallery and RPAC Art Center and Academy. One of the things that we did is the Richfield Playhouse had a desire to change their iconic smiley face sculpture that's in the form of a big brownish yellow ball that sits in front of the playhouse. So this has been an ongoing project for us. We put it out to artists and students who work with us to create an idea of, do we want to change Smiley, or do we want to go ahead and come up with a new design? So through a committee, we chose out of the people who submitted 5 designs. And these designs can be voted for on richfieldplayhouse.com. On the front page, there's a button. Or you can stop by the Playhouse or the RPAC Gallery and actually put in a paper ballot. So out of these designs, there are some really fun ones. One that I love is by Steve Leiker. We'll be hearing from him in a moment, which is a magic 8-ball. So what actually appears in the viewfinder will change per show or per promotion. So that's one idea. The smiley face, created by Greg Mersko, which has a little bit different take on the traditional one that has some earphones. We also have another design that was chosen for Steve Leiker, which is a jazz musician. He does a lot of these jazzy portraits. One of our students was selected by the name of Robert Fontanelli, and he did a globe, and it's a beautiful rendering of the globe. Then another one of our students by the name of Ryan Cousins was chosen for his dripping paint design. And of course, you can always vote to keep the original and iconic smiley face, originally created by Chris Cunan 10 years ago, and he'll just put a fresh coat of paint on it. So we really want the community to decide what that ball is going to be and what it's going to become. Okay, and again, you can go to richfieldplayhouse.com to vote, or you can come by the RPAC Gallery or the Ridgefield Playhouse lobby. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to Steve Leiker, who 2 of his designs were just mentioned, by the way. And you pull this out. So I want to come over here to Steve's paintings. So Steve has been painting for over 40 years. He has done illustration and painting his entire life. What he really seems to be drawn to in his paintings and inspiration, as he puts it, is the impact of color, light, reflection, and shadow. So what this kind of does is it brings him to these night scenes a lot, and also inspiration of almost a rainy night. He has a beautiful piece called Misty Uber, which you can find at rpacgallery.com, along with these very iconic Ridgefield pieces. So since he's been working with us, he has gotten commissioned to do Ridgefield scenes around town, and he has also sold some of his Ridgefield paintings. So these are 2 new ones. One is called The Iconic Lights Up at Christmas Time for Steve Leiker. So I'd like to give Steve an opportunity to speak and be introduced. Steve?
We're trying to get Steve online. We're having a little malfunction.
So I'm just going to stand
Yeah,
here and wait.
Steve, you need to try to request to join the video, and then I can add you. That's the only way to do it, if you hear me.
Okay, until then, why don't we get some close-ups of his paintings and really kind of show the detail. So another interesting thing about Steve's work is he works on tinted canvases, and that helps him bring out the lights and the darks in a way that is very impactful. He always kind of mixes, how did he put it? Oh, it was on his, it's very realistic or representational, but with a little bit of interpretation to it. So one of the things that people love about it is they recognize the street, they recognize the feeling that they've had when Ridgefield has been so beautiful, and these are really incredible pieces. Any luck?
No?
Okay, people joining in is not going well. So we always have little bumps and bruises, but we'll get through them. Okay, so while we're waiting, okay, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the RPAC Gallery. What are we about here at RPAC? Well, one of the things is we have kind of a multi 360 approach to the artists that we really have encouraged to really help the artists achieve their goals. So one of the things we do is we have studio space over at the RPAC Art Center. So that's kind of our working area for them. So they're able to have space, studio space, create in a creative environment, work with people of like minds, ignore the sirens going on in the background, work with like minds, and really kind of find inspiration from each other and from a creative working environment. Along with that studio space, they of course get space in this beautiful retail gallery, open retail hours, and always available for people to come in and view their art and really explore all their wonderful pieces. The gallery has been open since, September of 2019. So we have realized tremendous success, and even through the shutdown, we have been doing well. We've been extremely fortunate. And again, I think it's a safe place to come. And one of those reasons is because there's not a lot of people here at any given time. So it's quiet. We have all the procedures done for 6 feet apart and the right distancing. So it's really great. Along with that, they get a full online store. So basically, an artist has to create, maintain, upload, manage their entire library of pieces that they'd like to sell. And this is a lot of work. One of the things we do for our artists is we create an entire online storefront for them under the RPAC Gallery website, and it includes some really cool features. It includes what's called augmented reality, where you can hold your phone up and see it, the actual painting on the wall, what it'd look like. It also contains room views where you can change the size if you want to print. There's options to order the images on metal, on wood, on paper, on canvas. So there's all kinds of options. So our artists and our collectors an option to get it as big as they would like the image or as small as they would like the image. So, sorry, we're having a little interruption there. So it's really a great place to go if you want to explore and find just the right piece, not to mention all of their originals are online. So that's rpacgallery.com. So they get that along with their membership too. Now during COVID, we were trying to find a way to really welcome people into the gallery, which is tough, right? What do you do when you're closed? So we have now created a virtual, beautiful virtual gallery that you can tour. Each show, a new virtual gallery goes up online onto rpacgallery.com with links to the actual images and where they live on the site. And also, I lost my train of thought, hold on. So links to that. So that should be up for this show by Monday. So a wonderful friend of mine and a wonderful person who has started her own business by the name of Lisa Cousins is doing that. If anybody would like a virtual gallery done or a virtual tour done of their home, she's your girl. So always direct message me in order to find out her contact information in case you want it. And I believe Lisa might be on the Facebook Live, so she could always put a comment in about her business.
There's a green icon next
Highly
to the comment
recommend
button
it.
to join in.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to Dylan?
Call him again.
Because he was
Okay,
calling me.
wonderful.
Call him back.
Okay, so Dylan, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So Dylan is here, so we actually get to hear from one of the artists now. And I hope I'm representing each artist well. And please, if any of the artists want me to add anything that I've already spoken about, just put it in the comments or text Brooke. You know how to get it. Okay, Dylan. So when I met Dylan, he was coming into the gallery and he was telling us about his photography services. But not only does he do it commercially and really kind of create an amazing opportunity for businesses to have images for online or of their products, he does the fine art. And we were just so impressed with his fine art. So he's been totally absorbed and fascinated with nature. And I just found out something interesting about him today. I guess for his senior project, he decided to immerse himself into nature. So he built his own shelter out in the woods, very minimal. I think he had like a pot and a chair and a bed, maybe a heater every now and again. And this is Dylan. Hi.
Hello.
And he can tell you more about this. But, and he lived out there for a year and wrote his senior project and really kind of immersed in it. So one of the things he really liked to do, according to what I have been told, and he'll tell you better, is really getting close and really kind of examine everything. So I'm going to turn it over to Dylan and let him talk about his work.
Yeah.
Dylan.
So I started with fine art photography when I was young, and it started in my backyard, just taking a simple camera to the backyard, taking pictures of whatever I could find, maybe 14 years old. And that's how I started. And funny enough, that's where it came to at this point. During COVID, I could only go in my backyard. And so I kind of fell in love with, getting really, really close. Just kind of, well, as Dee talked about in my project, immersing myself in nature. Sitting in one spot and just seeing how much is really around you at any given time, that became my pursuit, and I wanted to do my best to show other people what is all around us at any given time. So within 3 feet, you can have several different landscapes or ecosystems, and I really wanted to do my best to kind of show that through my photography. Normally when we think of nature photography, we think of far-off places. These are all places, basically in my backyard. So this is just an oyster plant on my deck in the morning dew. This is a wood frog that was hopping around near the Woodcock Nature Center. And I learned a lot about nature over the years, and one of the most fascinating things with these creatures is that they actually freeze solid in the winter. And so I wanted to try to convey that a little bit. There's a reflection of the frozen forest in his eye. And I just thought that was so cool, and a lot of people don't even notice them, but they're out there. And then the last one we have here is frost-encrusted hydrangea in the fall. So I just thought this was a beautiful shot, and when you get up really close, you can see the crystalline structures. And I think we have 3 more pieces over here.
I'll follow you.
Yeah. So this is some of my earlier work as well, just following the same principle as, getting as close as I can. So these are all different, to me they look like landscapes, like forests or, something that's always at our feet when we're walking around. And finally, I'll just talk about, for me, the process of pursuing this type of photography has really changed the way that I look at my surroundings. So I find myself, walking more slowly and, having more of an appreciation for what we see on our day-to-day life, even just walking around. Although it might be a little bit infuriating for anybody walking with me, because I tend to stop a lot. So I think that's everything I have to say, if anyone has any questions. Oh, and thank you to RPAC. It's been a really great opportunity for me as a photographer who, you kind of feel like painting is, the real scene. So as a photographer, I really appreciate all the opportunities that RPAC has given me.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And Susan says that's beautiful. And hi, Bailey. She says, great. Thank you. And Lily says, nice work, Dylan.
Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, for your feedback.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay. I'm walking, so I have my mask back on. Okay. I think we're actually heading over here next.
Steve, by the way,
Yes.
I got Steve on the phone, so if you want to talk via phone, we can do that.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Hey, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, we got you on the phone, my friend.
Okay, let's see if you hear me.
Yeah, we can hear. So we'll go
All
head
right.
over to Steve's.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna head back to Steve.
So Steve, if you could, tell us about your inspiration and why you paint and your mediums. It'd be awesome.
Okay, now do this. He's not fun like me.
Okay.
Which one do you want to talk about first?
Which one do you want to talk about first?
It's not, introduce myself and then talk about either one of them, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Why don't we do Ridgefield Main Street 3?
Okay, can you hear it? I hear a bunch of noise in the background. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, anyway, I want to thank everybody for all the patrons. On the right, the downtown. That's on the other right.
That's the one.
I'm in front of it.
Can you see it, Steve?
Yeah, I can see Main Street 3.
Yep.
There's a delay. Anyway, thank you everybody for the opportunity to talk to you today. I'm a resident artist at RPAC, and I'm behind the gallery. You'll sometimes find me in my diet of beer nuts and Milky Way bars. And so, yeah, I'm here.
So, Steve.
There's a delay of about 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you for coming in. Does anybody have any questions for Steve now that he's out there?
Yeah, Steve, I got a question. I just want to know what mediums you use.
Acrylic.
It's all acrylic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, everyone. There's a bit of a delay with the phone and the Facebook Live. But
Yeah, it's about 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Wow.
Okay, well, Steve, thanks for coming in. And if we have any questions, we will text you with them. Does that sound like a deal?
Sure.
Okay, sorry about the delay. Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go back to.
Yep, so let's do Brandy. Okay, hi everybody. I'm gonna focus on this one. So this piece is from an artist by the name of Brandy Perrone. I'm gonna take off my mask. Hi again. So Brandy Perrone is a fantastic artist. She has been a career registered nurse and the daughter of 2 tremendous daughters. And I only know this because I'm one of them. So I am very proud of my mother. She has always drawn, here, let me go over here. She has always drawn and created art in different ways, always taken art classes. But one of the things that has really kind of made her come forward now is the inspiration of this piece, actually, which she started in a class a long time ago. When we were living in Texas, actually. And it was about the bluebell bonnets. And one of the things that she found so intriguing was the fact that this tree in the middle of this completely bloomed field was barren. And she kind of felt like, you know, poor tree, you must be envious. So this is what inspired her. This is a watercolor on paper, and it is one of her absolutely most beautiful pieces. And it was in, what part of Texas? I forget.
Beaumont.
Beaumont, Texas. So this is on display, and she has more works inspired by trips and experiences she's had, mostly with her family, that are on rpacgallery.com. So you can find her under Brandy Perrone. Okay, and then we're going to move to Charles. Okay, Charles. Okay. So do you want me to do my little introduction?
Do your thing.
Okay. So Charles is following in his grandfather's footsteps. They actually have the same name, Charles Goldbranson. And in 1913, he painted the ceiling of Grand Central Station. He was also called back to restore it. And Charles has also done some restoration work on it. So in this growing up in this environment, he became a huge fan of large murals and also restoration work. So Charles also, while pursuing all of those adventures, has created his own abstract work. He has been auctioned off very successfully at the Faces Gala in New York City. Also is a huge fan of collectors in the area. So I will go ahead. And he's also available for large-scale commission work for murals. So I'll hand it over to Charles, and he's going to talk about the 3 beautiful pieces he has up for this show.
Well, hi. The title of this diptych is One Good Reason. And one good reason I've been searching for is really how we approach establishing meaning in abstract work. And I've found our dependence on the ordering of perception is really reliant on our ability to transcend the duality of the present. And by that I mean the dualities of before and after, light and dark, past and present and future. And we do that through metaphor. And metaphor is really the bridge between phenomena and understanding. And I wanted to depict this environment of constant duality by depicting it as 2 pillars of light. And in that way, kind of reveal what our mind's eye searches for, and that is resolution, a metaphor that will resolve the duality of the present. And that's kind of what's running through my mind when I'm painting this particular piece. And if you want to take a little walk, we can go take a look at the other. Or if you have any questions, just let me know.
Well, we have some comments. Dave Koenig says, Charles, so great, stunning. Claire says, wow, love this.
Nice.
And Lily says, this pair of paintings, Charles, love it.
Oh, thank you very much. Come on in. This painting is called Delta, and I chose the name Delta simply because it represented such a drastic change in my own approach to painting. Rather than a triangular river delta, I chose instead to allow the rivulets of paint to chart their own course through chance, and to have the urgency of the mark making really take over and give depth and fullness to the piece. And in this next piece...
Do you mind if I just do a little close-up to it?
Oh, no, by all means. This next piece is entitled Scratching the Surface. And in painting this, I was thinking a lot about how I've often been asked to describe what it is that I do as an abstract painter, and how difficult that is to do since it's such an intuitive process. But I've found in this particular piece that while I'm painting it, there are these odd moments, these odd islands that stick out to me like a chain of unanswered questions. They arrive uninvited. They sit down in your favorite chair and threaten to ruin the whole thing. And of course, at the end of the day, they are the whole thing. often thought that I've been uncovering certain parts of this painting rather than applying paint. It's almost more of a subtractive process. And I've really just started to explore this new area of my work, and hence scratching the surface.
Wonderful. Someone was mentioning on Delta, they see sky waterfalls.
Yeah, there's definitely a fluid motion to the splashing and the dripping, and but I've often thought that contrasting that with that bold green really allows them to pop forward and become a little more prominent, a little more vital.
Well, one of the things I've always noticed about your paintings, Charles, is this explosion of color, this kind of consistent bursting of elements, and I really have always thought that it's almost like ethereal, cloud-like, otherworldly, yet very internal. So I've always, he knows how much I like it. So, okay, does anybody have any questions?
No, Claire says the colors are so pretty. It looks so cool how you combined warm colors with cool colors. And that's from Lizzie. Lizzie's one of our RPAC students. Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Lizzie.
Hi, Lizzie. Okay, so next we're going to move on here, and Charles, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
One of the things that I wanted to talk about next, speaking of our students, again, hi Lizzie, is how the schools have really impacted our teachers, our children, and I'm going to take off the mask again because I think I'm clear. The teachers, our children, and really art education in the schools. And I wanted to just take a minute to thank all the teachers who have been going through this with our children. Fantastic job. I don't know how you do it. Virtual, not virtual, quarantining, not quarantining. I just think it's amazing. The work you do for us and for our children to let us have some sense of, getting hopefully back to normal soon. So a thank you to all the teachers. And on top of that, I just wanted to reach out to all the art teachers in the area. I know it must be difficult to teach art virtually. And one of the things I wanted to tell you is we have instituted a program where if you would like to come in and work with a student, your time in the studio at RPAC Art Center is free of charge. You could bring a student in, and we have very inexpensive lab time slots for the digital Mac Lab, which is filled with all of the Adobe products. We have 3 choices. An hour slot is only $30. 3 hours is only $60, and you can get up to 9 hours for $135 for the students. And of course, a teacher could come in free of charge and work with their students. Also for studio arts, we have 2 choices of 3 hours and 9 hours. So if anybody is interested in taking advantage of that and being able to teach your students in person, we have social distancing, our tables are 6 feet apart, our Mac Lab can only have 4 students at a time. We will work with you to coordinate it and keep everybody safe while allowing you to still have time to work with your students and really allow them to learn. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention tonight before we move on to Will, our next artist, who is a photographer, is that we want to do a special promotion for tonight. We want to offer everybody who's come into our Facebook Live and is joining us and is being so patient while we go through the fun little bumps and bruises we're going through, that if you want to direct message us, meaning RPAC Gallery, with your email, we will send you a discount code. And you can purchase any one of these fabulous paintings in the gallery or any one that's available online, either print or original, at that discount. until the next show. So you have some time to get in here, see the offerings, see what we have to offer online, kind of explore getting a print. So there's a lot to do. So I wanted to offer that out to you. Okay, now next artist we're going to focus on is Will Cook. So moving over here. Hi, Will.
Hello there. Hi, Facebook Live.
Are we 6 feet apart?
We're 6 feet apart.
I think we are.
All right.
Can you see us both?
Not yet. I got to back up a little and then I'll zoom in.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to introduce you.
Okay.
Okay. So Will is a licensed psychotherapist and has always had what he calls a love affair with photography. That's been since the 80s. So I don't know who else he's had a love affair with.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. His long exposure photography has really offered him the opportunity to do some amazing night landscapes, not to mention very detailed and vibrant other, daytime landscapes. And again, to really get into this technique, which is new for him over the last couple of years, I believe,
Yes.
which is called light painting. So he has also taught other members of our community, which we will be getting to a little later, this technique. And he's also available to teach any photographer out there who wants to learn this amazing technique through RPACartcenter.com. You can sign up for a class with Will. So I want to hand it over to Will and let him talk about his pieces and his techniques.
Alrighty, again, hello everybody, Facebook Live. So what you see is light painting here, and sometimes when people see light painting, they get confused because they look at the image and they go, wow, is that layered in Photoshop? And what they don't realize is that this layering actually occurs in real time. So it's a real-time effect. So these effects were not created in Photoshop. These effects were created in camera. So I'm going to start with Throat Chakra over here. Throat Chakra is a piece I did probably about 5 years ago. And you see a configuration in the middle. And what that is called still wool spinning. Now what you do is you take a whisk, and if you could just pan over here for a second. This whisk has got quadruple zero grade still wool in it. And what you do is you light this still wool and you spin it. And when you spin it through centrifugal force, the shards go flying throughout the scene. And if you look at the scene, you'll see that there's blue light in the background. That was created by this flashlight right here. So Brooke, when you come on over to the flashlight again, we got this blue beam here. I used to create the background light, I bounced this flashlight off the cliffs and off the areas of the track. Now, if you look and see the still will spin, you see a little image of me. That's actually me. The camera's on a tripod. It's a long exposure. But you see a little bit of a ghosting of me, and that's because the light from the spin, which is like a minute-long exposure, was enough light to get me, but not fully illuminate my body. So you see what's called a ghosting effect in the image. So this was done at a place called Mindock Park up near Fort Montgomery. And there's actually a train tunnel right here. You can see the train tracks. And through different spots within the frame, you can see where the still wool sparks have bounced off of items and also hit the snow as well. So you'll see that. So this exposure is probably a little bit over a minute. And for the scene light, a blue flashlight, and for the background effect, a still wool spin. And if you were viewing this with the naked eye, what you would see are pieces of spark. The camera picks up the entire trail of the spark. That's the result of long exposure. So I'm going to go over to Galaxy, which is next to it. Now the interesting thing about Galaxy, this is at a place called Doodletown, which is an abandoned town near Bear Mountain, New York. And Doodletown has this one building that still remains. And I illuminated the background, again with the shutter open, with a regular flashlight. And then what I did, and you'll see different effects within the frame, this little banded image right here is a result of this, what's called a light flute. And what I did is I moved the light flute around, and again the camera recorded that through the scene, through the exposure. Then if you see another light, the orange light, that light is a result of a plexiglass blade. It was a rectangle blade, which actually broke on me, but I'm showing you right now, again through a strobe. This flashlight's on a strobe. You can see the configuration here, or the shapes of the effect in the frame. So there's a company called lightpainting.com that makes these. They make what's called the universal connector, which connects to the flashlight. Dennis Smith, a guy from Australia, makes these light flutes. And again, this is a universal connector that you can get from light painting. And these are some really good, they call them strobes, the flashlights, different brands, and with good intensity illumination. So anyway, light painting photography is not what it seems. People think because of its extravagance that it is a Photoshopped effect. The effects you see in these frames are in camera. They're not Photoshopped in. The colors and contrast were added or adjusted in Photoshop, but the effects themselves are in camera. So that's light painting. So that's what I do on my spare time. I teach it as well. So if you wanted one-on-one instruction, you could contact me here at RPAC. So any questions or comments from anyone?
I think we have a few interested parties that may be reaching out to you soon.
Okay.
So they want to learn the technique.
Okay, great.
So wonderful.
All right, well, they could do it through RPAC, or I can give you my email. I don't know how you want to do that, but
They can always call us here at RPAC and we can always get you connected.
great. That'll work for me, and I hope it works for them.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Will.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Will.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the natural transition from Will would be our next artist, Dominic Colabella. And you'll recognize the last name because he is not only my son, but he's one of the youngest artists here with us. Dominic is only 13, and I say only 13, you won't know it by his height and presence, but he has been pursuing photography for 4 to 5 years. He got interested when his elementary school had a contest that they announced, was it middle school? From ASAP called the Young Photographers. So he entered a picture that he took on a GoPro, which was the only camera he had at the time, and it won a spot in the show. He has subsequently been chosen for every show. When he saw Will's photographs here, he asked to take some lessons with him. So he started doing this light painting technique. And one of the things is he absolutely loved cars. So I will let him speak from here. So Dominic?
Hi, I'm going to be repetitive, but I'm Dominic Colabella, 13, and cars are like possibly my favorite thing of all time. Oh, right, mask. Cars are possibly my favorite thing of all time. Get closer in the frame, got it. First time, clearly. And I also love photography. I worked really hard on this one, so if you want to come in. I used what, Will is actually my teacher. Thank you, Will.
Welcome.
I used my mom's '08 Mustang, and I took a blue light flute, which was the kind of like lightsaber looking thing that Will showed you, and just dragged it over the car, kind of creating an outline for it, and it created this cool, menacing, vintage kind of ghosted picture.
Right, and what's the name of the piece?
Ghosted vintage, coincidentally.
Yes.
Thank you.
And what were you telling me about wanting that black and white effect?
So I realized, if you look up here, this is the same area, just 2 different angles. We were in the middle of the woods, right off my street, and I had taken this photo, and I realized it would be cool if I had gotten a similar photo to the original launch of the Mustang. And I thought I'd add a little bit of light painting to it, and it was a little bit dark out. I didn't mean for all of this to be like blacked out, but I'm really happy with the outcome.
And sometimes happy mistakes happen when you do photography.
What's that book we read in elementary school? Beautiful Oops.
A beautiful oops, yeah.
Oops.
There are no mistakes, just happy accidents.
Bob Ross.
Right.
Thanks, Bob.
So, one of the other things I wanted to mention about Dominic, that's Becca.
Well, you're my mother.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah.
there are other
We're
people.
kind of exposed to each other. That's okay. So one of the great things about Dominic is the light painting is just one aspect of his photography. He also is able to do close-ups of shapes. So he has some really interesting photographs. You can see them all out on rpacgallery.com, and I know I've mentioned this before, but you can get prints or originals out there, and we will send you a discount code, so don't forget to direct message us with your email. So, anything else? Any questions for Dominic?
Nope, a lot of comments. So impressive, Dom. Awesome. I love this shot. Yes, a beautiful accident by Lily.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Okay,
don't really know what to say. Okay, bye.
thanks. Okay, so we're gonna switch around and we're gonna talk about our newest artist. His name is Brent Arowitz. And Brent is here, but I believe he is just gonna wave. Yeah.
Hi, Brent.
So this is Brent. And the information I have on Brent is he was born and raised in Ridgefield and found most of his time in a gallery or in a studio, working on his art his whole life. And he grew up in Ridgefield, so he's always had a connection to the town and a connection to the art in this town. And he's recently come back to us, and he's been heavily influenced by Impressionists and the post-impressionist movements. I can't say that with the mask on. Impressionist and post-impressionist movements. His paintings definitely capture this kind of sense of wonder, and he does a lot. Like this one is really interesting, I thought. I looked up his explanation. It's called The Obelisk, and he got his inspiration based on the 1930s fashion photographer Andre Durst. And he saw a picture that Andre Durst had done, and this is what resulted. So he doesn't really go for any one topic. He uses his imagination. He paints what he sees. The other one that I researched because I was curious is this one called I'll Play the Blues for You. This is a portraiture of Albert King, who is a famous jazz guitarist, blues guitarist. Of course, the three pairs, gorgeous. And there's also The Road to Nowhere. And is there anything else you'd like me to mention? Okay. So Brett will have a lot coming up in the following shows. Look for him to have some new inspiration working with our other artists in the RPAC studios. Okay. And I think where we're going to move now is to our wonderful and co-founder, Greg Mersco. Ta-da! Okay, so Greg and I met during the master's program at WCSU. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're around each other all the time.
Yeah. So at Westcon, we both went through the master's program together. That's how we met. And we kind of talked about our frustrations in art education and the lack of resources there is once you spend all this time doing your master's. What do you do next? And this is kind of what we came up with. We're really proud of everything that we've done and how far we've come. Greg is really focusing on the students, so I'm going to let him talk about that in a minute, but he does have a piece that he has up. So do you want to talk about the piece?
I do. I'm really looking forward to talking. Hey, everybody in Facebook land. What I've done here, if you notice, actually broke it. You can come around here a little bit and show what my inspiration was. And my inspiration for my piece was one of the resident artists named Jen, I think it's Jen Ripa.
Yes.
She came into the studio with a picture of frozen cabbage. I was looking for inspiration. When I use any kind of art or I'm inspired by things, I see things and I want to draw. So I actually asked her if I can use this section here of her picture of frozen cabbage and I wanted to draw what I saw in it. So just pull back. Now what I saw was again, frozen, something cold, and I saw an older man's face, and then I saw another man right next to him with a long beard. So anyone who knows my art, I could take, you could take pictures of clouds, you could take pictures of your marble floor. I will go and create something that I see. So this is what I came up with. And it's aptly named Jay's Frozen Cabbage. What it is basically is inspiration from my mind. I just see pictures, I see faces a lot, and I know a lot of you guys probably do too. But I want to go and draw something I see, and because it was frozen, I wanted it to remain cold. So what I did was I used oil paint for the first time, with lots of help from friends like Charles. And what I found too is when I was painting this, I got extremely frustrated. Because as a 54-year-old man who's been working in colored pencil and acrylic, to do anything other than that, especially oil painting, because I didn't know it, but I'm like, you know what, I'm going to be brave, I'm going to try it. I got a lot of inspiration from the artists around me, so I'm going to try oil paint. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever do oil paint again. To be honest with you, it just takes too long to dry, and I found myself getting extremely frustrated with it. And you can ask Dee Dee, a lot of times just spent time in our storage area because I didn't want to look at it. But I kept going back to it. We got a lot of reinforcement from a lot of the resident artists here at RPAC. And they're like, you gotta finish it, you gotta finish it. So I did. But again, the whole thing with me, I had it painted, and I'm like, there's something missing. I gotta put something in here that makes it feel colder. Like I had the snow, I had the little flurries going all over the place, but I didn't have the feel of it being frozen. So what I did was I took an eye dropper, and I just took like polyurethane, and I just dropped like every quarter of an inch. And I did this for days. So this has 2 cans worth, about that big, of polyurethane just dripped, drip, drip. I go down about 5 inches. That just kept dripping, dripping. One thing I didn't count on is if you notice everything is blue. There's only 4 colors on this. Lots of blues, there's a little bit of purple, black, and white. If you notice, the polyurethane kind of yellowed a little bit. They said it was clear polyurethane, so it's something I learned. And you know, it kind of was an exercise for me, just to experiment. I do like the piece a lot, but I learned a lot. And I think that's one of the things I really value at RPAC. And I really value the artists. I mean, I would have artists stepping up to me, hey, try this, hey, try that. Leslie Luciano helped. Charles helped a lot to show me how to do things. So to me, it was really a cool thing to do. And again, I'm an illustrator. I'm not really a fine artist or studio artist, abstract. I kind of, whenever I try to do abstract painting, I find myself making faces out of it. So this is what I created. I hope you like it. It took a long time to do. This will be, if I ever become famous, this will be the only oil painting that anyone's interested in. I should have called it for sale. Anyway, that's what I do. And maybe you want me to start talking a little bit about the school?
Yeah,
Or?
what I was going to say is this technique that you used in using an abstract form and then finding a picture in it, you tend to use with your illustration students. And I just want to say a shout out to all of our illustration students and other students who are working with us currently. I will not mention last names because we want to respect their privacy. But hi Robert, Saban, Jordan, Ryan, Lizzie, Ben, Scott, Amelia, Dale, and Austin. We really thank you guys for coming in and working with Greg and learning what you're learning. And why don't you talk about them and some techniques?
All of those kids are, they range from age 12 to 16.
16, yeah.
Yeah. I love every one of them. I mean, it's such a pleasure having a career like I've had, being a professional designer and illustrator for over 30 years, and then turning my life into, like, again, painting, but still giving back. And that was one of my goals I always wanted to do. I always wanted to teach. And when Dee Dee and I got together and decided to start this, that was my main goal, was to start really inspiring kids And I tell you what, I get a lot more satisfaction seeing a kid get it and paint and do beautiful work than I do my own. It's just so much more satisfying. All those kids to me, they're like family. And let me show you two of the pieces I brought in. Now this is Ryan, some of Ryan's work. This is a kid who goes and literally draws on his own. You don't have to sit him down and say, hey, I need you to draw for 3 hours. This kid just does it on his own. This is one of in his sketchbook, which I think is amazing. And he could do a pencil drawing, he could do a painting, and he does an incredible job within hours, which would take me days. He was doing a couple of different pencil drawings, and I was just looking at it amazed. Kind of like Austin. Austin, I don't know if you remember, but Austin was doing landscapes. And I was trying to show Austin how to do shapes and how to get the mountains. And next thing you know, that kid's doing it better than I was. So I was just like, I literally took it right from his father and go, yeah, this is my piece. And I just folded it down because Austin was doing a better job than me. Just to let you know, this is all done with marker. It's a Copic markers. Really, really good markers. Kids work with either colored pencil, marker, watercolor, acrylic, oils. They try all mediums. And when we teach, it isn't one of those things that we go and we throw it on a still life and we tell the kid to draw. Only if they're looking to go to college, like Robert, we'll put down things just so he has work to show to college recruiters. But what we like to do is a lot of independent studies to where the kid draws from his mind, draws whatever they want. Because if you start giving kids assignments, I find that they're not really motivated by it. So I'm like, all right, if one kid wants to draw anime, go draw anime, show them what you got. Then I started introducing different ways. Okay, can you make the hand move? And again, they'll ask, how does the hand move? I said, well, if you can't get it, just take a picture of it with your cell phone and then draw what you see. And a lot of that, they really respond well to. I gotta tell you, there's some art that's coming from these kids that's absolutely amazing. This is Robert's piece. You may see this piece of an octopus on people's t-shirts. This is mom had printed up. Denise, she's awesome. But Robert, again, I call Robert a maker. He's one of these kids who is constantly drawing, constantly drawing. And he cares about it so much because he wants to go to a really good school. We're actually trying to get him into Rhode Island School of Design. And yeah, we try to go and get these kids. There's another one, Dylan, I won't get the last name. But he was having trouble getting into Syracuse. So we use our contacts, and we will literally call the college and say, hey, I got a kid here. He's really interested in going to your school. What do we have to do to get him to your school? And so far, we've gotten a great response. That's the whole idea behind our school. We let them draw, we let them paint, we also let them do graphic design. I've been a graphic designer for over 30 years. We have all the programs. We have one kid, Ben, who's awesome. He's doing 3-dimensional insects. And actually, that kid is actually teaching me more about 3D design than I could show him. We have all the equipment. We got everything for someone, not only to just learn about what they're doing, but the whole idea with RPAC and DDI, we want you all to learn what you're doing, be good at what you're doing, and then be able to make a living at what you're doing. And that's the whole idea behind what we do. That's the whole idea behind the studios, behind the academy and the gallery, and the digital storefront. It's all about becoming part of a family, which I think is here. But I really think that everybody really gets along really, really well. We all love each other. We all help each other. And it's all about, hey, we can do this for a living. Good?
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Yeah. Okay, we're going to head over to Meredith. Okay, so Meredith. Hi. What can I say? Meredith is an amazing human being, again. One of the things I wanted to do is just kind of introduce. I've been doing that and I'm letting you talk about your work. So one of the things about Meredith's work is she's been a Ridgefielder for years and years. She's owned businesses in Ridgefield. She's been a part of this community for a long time, and she believes in giving back. That's one of her biggest gifts to people around her. And she pushes the limits of her art. She really wants to kind of absorb what she loves and push it a little further, more conceptual. And she went to Wake Forest University and then got her MA in art therapy from New York University. So during that time, she studied botanicals and drew a lot of botanicals. So she has, and I'll let her explain that whole connection in all of her art, but her current work focus is very conceptual, and it really is stemming from breath and what happens without it. So I'd love to have you talk about your work.
Thank you. Hi, so I'm Meredith Mulhern. I am a conceptual artist, and I use my art as a platform for philanthropy. One of the stuff you guys can hear me since there's no one near me. That would be better. Yeah, so I'm a conceptual artist here in town. I am a resident artist at RPAC, and I use my art as a means of philanthropy. So my goal is to make a positive change in the world using art as my language. So in most cases, people call me the plant lady. I have a space near and dear in my heart for plants. And so conservation comes into my work. I really, really feel a strong connection, but it wasn't always that way. So I think I had my epiphany when I graduated from Wake Forest and I moved to New York City. And as they say, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. So I'm in this urban jungle, if you will, and I no longer have the connection with plants that I had my whole entire life growing up. And I didn't really realize it at the time, but there was a void in my life. So I started taking classes at the New York Botanical Gardens and focused all my art energy on creating botanicals. Now at that time I was doing very, very traditional, conventional, botanical drawings, which took endless hours, and I loved that process. But now I'm going in a completely different direction. So now, as Judy was saying, most of my work is in the conceptual realm, and this would be included in that. I started my plant work around the topic of plant blindness. So if you're familiar with some of my older work, probably about a year back, I was working with thermochromic paint, creating images that you had to actually physically touch in order to transform them and see the image below. So in that way, people had to physically interact with the plants that were embedded in my image in order to reveal them and be able to see them. So in that way, I was mimicking the idea of, in the case of plant blindness, people do not see the plants in their environment any longer. And this is a phenomenon that's problematic in terms of conservation. We tend, obviously, to invest in the things that we really connect with, and if we're not even noticing the plants in our daily lives, because we're probably texting someone or doing something completely technology-driven, we lost that connection. And I wanted to recreate an awareness. So that evolved into what you're going to see now. I did have one more series in between on the topic of roots, and that was kind of initiated by the pandemic. I found myself really inspired to do something involving roots because they are grounding and life-sustaining and kind of unsung heroes of the plant world. So that led me to this. And so this piece actually is getting back to the urgency that we have as human beings to connect with plants. And literally, we cannot exist without them. So in order for us to breathe on a daily basis, we have to have plants in our lives. And what I was shocked to discover was that about 85% of the air that we breathe is the oxygen comes from ocean phytoplankton. And so this piece here is actually called Sacred Breath. And in order to create this, I used pigment that I created myself using phytoplankton. So the ocean phytoplankton is the only thing that colors this other than the graphite that I laid down as a template beforehand. I had to make a watercolor. It was quite an involved process and a challenging material to work with. Not having black and white, if you've ever painted in watercolors, to get a lot of depth and variation, it was not consistent. It definitely presented its challenges. But if you look really closely at the detail, the interesting thing about this piece for me is that it started out as being a very literal representation of the air we breathe coming from this phytoplankton. But what it turned out to be was my subconscious addressing the current COVID pandemic. And obviously when I posted this online, people were like, I'm so glad you're doing art around this topic because we're seeing people on ventilators in hospitals, and it's really touching to see something so beautiful. I had people from Brazil writing poetry in response to my work, and I had no idea it was going to have that level of impact. But the thing is that I didn't really intend it to be about COVID. And obviously, COVID is kind of coloring everything that we do right now. So it became obviously influenced by that. And as I was creating this, if you look at all the little alveoli there are, it was over 1,000 of them. And when I started painting them in, I felt like my head was going to explode. And I was like, I am no longer an artist, I'm a manufacturer. And I must manufacture over 1,000 of these little individual spheres. But I got about 10 in and realized that they weren't spheres at all. Each one of those alveolus represents an individual that has been impacted by COVID. So whether there's someone who's passed away, or someone who's lost someone, or the countless people who are out there every day risking their lives to save others, each one of those represented one of those people to me. So it no longer became a feeling of labor, but a very emotional journey to create this piece. And I think based on my feedback on social media, that kind of translated to other people. So that's it in a nutshell. It's the beginning of my Breathless series, and my next initiative is going to be around the idea of dead zones in the oceans. So you can stay tuned for that. And in general, I'm really trying to get out there and spread the word about reconnecting with plants, conservation, and I use my work, like I said, for philanthropy. So if this resonates with you, and if you feel like it's something that you want to be involved in, I use my art to raise funds for important causes and just to create an awareness. So please help me spread the word. Thanks so much. It's good to see you guys. Thanks, Meredith.
Wonderful.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I hope we've still have everybody. I know that we have a little bit of time left, probably about another half an hour or so to go, maybe a little bit longer, so we hope you stay tuned. One of the things that I wanted to mention before we move on to our next two artists is that through working with RPAC, through having this business, one of the things we realized is how artists just need support. They have such a gift, and they have so much to give us in the way of culture and just getting to know ourselves, that sometimes they need a little support. So we created a nonprofit by the name of Artful. So it's ARTFUL. One of the things about Artful is we help raise funds for scholarships, number one. We also have outings and seminars and workshops, which has been amazing. And the last thing is we have what we are calling resident artist programs, but it's basically raising funds for any artist, whether they be an RPAC artist or just somebody who is out there creating art, visual arts primarily. And you can apply for studio space, materials, the ability to take classes, a whole bunch of things. So we encourage all of you out there who are an artist to check into ArtGoal and see what all we have to offer through this nonprofit. And also, if you would like to support ArtGoal and our mission to help the artists grow in their work and their endeavors, please go to artgoalgives.org and you can, help us out there. So I wanted to just mention that. Okay, we're going to move to real quick since we're kind of in this alcove. This is actually a piece that I created. So this is a sculpture, a 3D sculpture. Sorry about the background noise, guys. So this is a 3D sculpture, and it was made out of plaster, fabric, and wax. And I called it Tear Away. And one of the things that I really kind of felt when making this is sometimes through situation, through challenges in our lives, we feel kind of hold against our own voice, struggling to be able to communicate what we want, what we feel, what we need. And I went through a period of time where this was one of my main issues. I couldn't find my voice again. And it was very traumatic for me. And this piece kind of represents, and it's a little bit difficult to see, you have to get close, but this is actually my face that I took a mold of in plaster and then covered with fabric and used wax to make that feeling of tearing against or pulling against a fabric. So this piece is something I'm very proud of. Again, I am an artist also. I love art. I love everything about art, which is why I'm here. And I'm very proud of all of our artists who work with us. And I also am welcoming any other artist who does not work with us directly to stop by. We love to talk art. We love to share art. Please stop by and become part of our community, even if you don't work with us directly. We'd love to have you as part of, a family. Okay, next person we're going to talk about is Jim Malloy. So I'm going to go over here. And this is Jim's work. So Jim is an author, he's an artist, and he does other things like videography and works on movie sets. And this is something that he has really found inspirational for all of his work. If you're looking for his books, one of his books is called Pins and Needles, but it is written under a surname, or a pen name, I think we call it. Hugh James, Pins and Needles, coming soon. But he also, he has participated in over 35 exhibits just since 2019. This is kind of a new venture for him. He's done a lot of these acrylic works on paper. And he has a very unique technique. He likes to pull the paint against itself, and he uses a credit card. It's a really interesting thing to watch. There's actually a YouTube video of it out on RPAC Resident Artist TV on YouTube. So if you look for that, you can find his technique. These 4 paintings that he has up currently. This is acrylic on paper. This one is nude descending on an escalator. This one is called Wilder Nights. We have Strictly Confidential and I'll Show Up. That one. So all of these can be found on rpacgallery.com. These look amazing. Just a little side note, if you want a print of them on metal, really big, really kind of do amazing. If you're one of an original, of course, these are tremendous. So that is Jim Malloy's work. And sorry Jim couldn't make it tonight. Are there any questions or comments?
Nope. Just trying to see how to get Dave on the video.
Okay, well, let's go to Terrence next, since
Okay.
Terrence is here, if he doesn't mind coming in. May I have Terrence's card?
Dave, I'll try to figure out in a moment.
Dave is on hold. Hi, Dave. Okay. I got all my notes. Okay, so what I've been doing is introducing everybody and then let you kind of talk. So Terrence Mahan, he has a background in product design, not project design. And his real passion has become these three-dimensional wall pieces made of plaster, some gold leaf, and also wood, very natural elements. He also loves set design, has done some work for Throne Stone Theater and other theaters around town, has been very active in the community that way. So I wanted to introduce his pieces, Star Canyon, Canyon, and Prism, and I'll let him talk about his work. Thanks, Terrence.
Thanks, Dee. So as Dee said, these are, I think the majority of the work here is two-dimensional, painting, photography, graphics. These are considered relief sculpture, and they're all done in plaster. And the inspiration, these two are very much related. This came first, so the design and art evolved in very interesting ways. This came from a sketch of a penguin, side view of a penguin, and it evolved into this more of a geodesic sort of form that was more reminiscent of a canyon, more of a naturally occurring geography. So it's always interesting how design can start in one direction and then just completely pivot and move in another direction. These pieces were actually done about a year ago, and at the time I was doing some Christmas sort of inspired pieces, so this became Star Canyon. So it relates to the canyon piece, but it's a different motif and a different graphic, a simpler, fewer planes. And I also wanted to experiment in leaf, gold and silver gilding, leafing. So this is done in silver, and silver tarnishes over time. So that's where the patina and entropy is occurring. And this is done in plaster. This is plaster of Paris. So humidity in the air absorbs into the plaster, and then the humidity and the moisture of the plaster comes back up through the gilding to cause the tarnishing. And then this piece is started out as a floral piece, just four points on the sketch, and became just this geodesic, planar, cubist sort of study that I really wanted to have it graphically change as you walk through the space. So if this were placed in a hallway or an entryway, literally as you're walking past and around it, the highlights and the shade and the shadow and the faceting literally changes as you're walking around the piece. So all of these have flat planes above and below and around, so as to create the form contrast and the subtlety of the planes. So without that, it'd be probably more difficult, so it adds contrast, form contrast to the piece. Not unlike a high contrast black and white photograph. All of these pieces are not really considered to be the star in the room necessarily. They're more just a note or an accent in an interior space, and don't demand a lot of specific lighting. In fact, having these three pieces in my house, they excel more just with natural lighting, and even under circumstances of extremely low lighting, like past midnight and no light, there can be some really interesting patterns that come come out. So, Brooke, I don't know if you have a chance to sort of like sweep an arc around this piece. You can sort of see how, yeah. You can see how in an arc around the, yeah, so the side view, side elevations are very important too. I wanted people to see and enjoy the pieces, not just straight on, but coming up and down the stairway, coming in and out of an entryway. So you can see how the light and the facets change as your viewpoint changes.
It's difficult because it's
More than happy to answer any questions. They're very architecturally sort of referenced, and they would traditionally be considered a frieze, which is an ornamental, typically on an upper horizontal element of the exterior architecture. So that's my work. Any questions or comments? I'd be happy to.
no, all good, all great comments. Love these pieces. Great dimension, contrast, and element. No, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
We're supposed to invite.
Okay, so we're looking for Dave. While we do that, wanted to talk about our classes that we offer here at RPAC. We mentioned the digital lab and the studio art area. And I wanted to just let everybody know we only allow a certain number of students at a time. All of our teachers wear masks and students wear masks unless they are seated and doing their work, in which case they are socially distanced. We also have special air filters going at all times to filter the air. And of course, we had a deep cleaning before we reopened. So we consider it a very safe environment for students. We have different things that we offer. One is independent study. Now, independent study, you hear that, you think you're going to be alone working. It's more that you get to choose what you work on with guidance from one of our teachers, and you get to choose what you want to try, whether that be trying a new medium, a landscape, really further a skill that you already have. We let you direct us in topic and medium, and then we help you achieve your goals. We also have courses, and courses go for a 12-week term, 12 weeks every week. We can start at any time according to teacher availability, so there's no definite start date, definite end date. You can sign up any week. We do ask that in your courses we keep 1 day a week. But you could start this week, you could start next week, you could start 3 weeks from now. We really accommodate you by matching you with the instructor. Then we have classes. So classes are a little different. Classes are more of a, I want to come in and just do a portfolio review and study for a little while. You can choose how many hours you go on that class and how many weeks. So that's really a unique thing to us, that we kind of fit the class to you. And then of course there's our academy. Now this is a little bit more intense, and we have digital art academy, studio art academy, and an RPAC professional academy. So basically that is a series of classes and topics that will earn you the ability to work in either the digital field, the studio art field, or in both, and be completely well-rounded, which is needed for a lot of the careers. It's a 3 12-week cycles, or trimester, and it's really great. So definitely go online and check out our classes. Before we go to our next artist, because we're still looking for Dave, okay, I wanted to announce a special promotion. So yes, I do encourage my family to participate in the arts. And one of the things is my daughter, who is not very, she's more of a writer. That's kind of where she excels. Come on in, Mia. So this is Mia Colabella. And honestly, we didn't even know we were doing this. She read me a poem that she wrote about a week ago, and it literally brought tears to my eyes. And I'm inspired to create a piece out of this poem. So I want to turn it over to you, and what we're going to do is she's going to read the poem, and this poem will be online. And what we're going to do is open it up to anybody. Any kind of art, whether it be music, writing, visual art, sculpture, anything that you feel inspired to do, you can submit that piece through submissions at rpacartcenter.com, and we'll have this all online. We ask that you submit, let me look at my notes. You submit by March 20th. The winner, one winner will be announced on the 25th. That piece will be exhibited in the gallery for the next show. And all the other pieces will be auctioned off for artful.org, our nonprofit to support the visual arts. So Mia, I hand it over to you to read your poem.
Okay, so here it is. If anyone needs me to repeat it, I will, because I tend to talk fast, and I will try not to do that. So, okay. The thrill you get when stepping on cracking ice is addictive, much like the feeling of cheating death and the feeling of control. But with every crack, it becomes control of life and death, in control of how you choose to live or die. But stepping on cracking ice is temporary, fading. And with every step you take, the loss of control is provoking. And the feeling of stepping on cracking ice is no longer cheating death, it is provoking it. So there that is. So, here. Right, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mia. And this poem, like I said, will be available online. And I'm just going to talk about
Andrea.
Oh, well, what about Dave?
He's going to call in. So Andrea is ready to go.
Okay, so I'm moving on to Andrea. Okay?
Oh. Okay, hold on. Andrea.
And then we're calling Dave.
Request.
We have to call him.
Request again.
Yeah.
I lost her. She has to request it again.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I will introduce. So, Andrea Rowan, she is a contemporary
Everyone was wondering.
realist painter that was born into a Connecticut equine family. I hope I said that correctly. She developed her own visual vocabulary through her love of horses and also abstracts. She manipulates line and color to create a unique emotional response and new experiences for the viewer. She was formally trained at FIT in New York and has had a long career as a visual merchandiser, which brings mastery of color theory, rhythm, and composition to each painting. So for this show, is she available?
It's not allowing us to add her, even though we're trying.
Okay, yeah.
Andrea, if you're listening, see if you can request to join again.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this. This is what we call a diptych. Oh no, sorry, spray.
She's coming on.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, then I will let you talk about your work. I'm going to scoot out.
Oh, okay. So these are my flowers. It's acrylic and tissue paper. It's abstract. However, I think that flowers are the most beautiful natural thing on earth. And it's hard to capture their natural beauty. So I like to paint them in an abstract manner. And my goal, I think, is just when you look at it, to be happy. Because I think I'm happy painting and happy painting flowers. So this one here is a spring.
Spring.
And it's about the spring colors and the dread of winter. Hopefully this painting, when you wake up and look at it, it brings you just happiness. That was my goal. The next painting, can you see me? Am I on?
I can see you.
Okay. This one here is probably my favorite painting. It is about identifying flowers and identifying myself as an artist. And this is really what inspired me to paint full time. And I love it. I love what I'm doing. And I think that each layer, there's many, many layers. And this started with being New York City underneath and the concreteness and the city itself, not that pretty to me. And actually spending more time in nature and really identifying myself and spending a lot of time painting. So I love this painting. I love the colors. I love the color balance, and it's important. It's an important piece to me.
Do you want to describe what material you used? Because you said tissue paper, right?
It's tissue paper layered over acrylic. I use a glazing medium, so the tissue paper actually turns to paint, and so to speak.
Wow.
I don't know what else to say. Yeah, it's a good piece.
Do you want to talk about
Are
this?
there any questions for Andrea?
This one here is Sisters. It's also layered with tissue paper and paint. I actually pulled out some of the tissue so you can see the actual canvas underneath, where it's actually blue dye dots. And again, it's just multi-layers of, yep, there it is, of flowers and how they grow. And do you have any questions for me?
I don't see any questions.
Okay, well, thank
And
you.
that's it. I also want to say thank you, and I'm very happy to be part of this group.
Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, we're going to move over to Dave Koenig. Evidently, Dave's waiting for a phone call, so let's move over here. Okay. So am I calling Dave, or is somebody else calling? Sure. What's his number? Can you dial it while I start talking? Okay. So Dave Koenig, what can we say about Dave? Let's see. He is a comedian, actor, novelist, and painter extraordinaire. So Dave joined us one day. He was just kind of picking a place on the map to come venture and ended up in Ridgefield. And he found us. Before I talk about his paintings, I want to give a nod to his 3-time Emmy-winning comedian, Beth. He has been on several popular TV shows. You may even recognize his picture if you go onto RPAC Gallery online and see his picture. He has been in The Blacklist and The Marvelous Miss Maisel, just to name a couple. When he got into oil painting, he really was finding, as I understand, and I'll let him talk more, his inspiration through scenes in New York. So these are oil on canvas, and he has several that, and he even has one. Dave, are you there? See here? Oh, you didn't call it. Well, we got his message. So I will do a little comedy act. I wish I could. So we will hope he calls me. Is that Dave?
Isn't it?
Aha, we found him. He called the gallery.
You can put it on speaker.
So Dave, we're gonna let you talk through speaker. Let's see, where's the
Bottom
speaker?
center.
Okay, hello. Nope. Dave. Dave. Hi, hold on, let me put you on the speaker. Okay, can you hear me?
Hello, Dee, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is the disembodied voice of Dave Koenig. I'm calling from the palatial Koenig Estates here in the Bronx, New York. How are you?
Good, how are you? I was just explaining your background and turning it over to you to
There's some
explain.
goddamn button I'm supposed to press on Facebook, but I don't know how to do it. I'm not good with the social media. I'm gonna start the world's first anti-social media group. You join and then you immediately unfriend everyone.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you could tell us a little bit about your paintings, Dave, that'd be fantastic.
This is the painting we're looking at now. It's called Amsterdam Avenue al fresco. I was going to call it Amsterdam Avenue Alter Cockers al fresco. Stay on the painting. Where you going? Where you going? Stay on that painting.
We're on a little delay, Dave.
Yeah, there's a delay. So that's a beautiful painting. And that's two old guys eating outdoors. Now, here's the thing about this painting. Very interesting. As you can see, they're eating outdoors, and yet there's no food on the table. Now, there's two possible interpretations of why that is. One is we've caught a moment in time in between them ordering their soup and the soup arriving. And the other interpretation is that the artist at that point just was too lazy to paint the food and just wanted to get the painting over with. Now, that's not a very generous interpretation, but one of those is actually the truth.
So are you going to comment on the stickers? Someone had commented about your stickers and the meanings behind them.
If they know what the meaning is, they should buy the painting from the RPAC gallery and send me a note and explain to me what the meaning is, because I have no idea. Those are stickers on it. That's a lamppost, and apparently the kids today with the graffiti. See, when I was a kid, you wanted to do graffiti, you had to climb over barbed wire and go into subway yards and risk your life. The kids today, they're soft. They put the graffiti on stickers. It's easy.
It's a little lazy almost.
Little lazy. Okay.
The next painting that we have for you is Isabella's World. Isabel's World.
Yes. You like that painting, Dee Dee?
I love that painting.
That's the painting, yes. It's called Isabel's World. And in the painting, we see that Isabel is watching Christina's world. Christina is watching the house on the property. And we're not sure what the people inside the house are watching. I think they might be watching reruns of Matlock. That's what I think. I think they just really like Matlock. Is the laugh on delay, or am I not getting it?
No, it's the laugh is you. They're laughing.
Very good. This is working out fine, don't you think? I mean, technologically, it took 10 people to get me on a phone call. There's something wrong with this picture. But there's nothing wrong with this picture. This picture is called In the Back Room, you see. And it tells a story. I think it's a very profound and interesting. It tells a story of a woman who wants to be alone with her thoughts. So she goes in the back room, you see. But she can't be alone with her thoughts because it's a pandemic and she's trapped in the apartment with her husband, and he follows her everywhere. You can't see the husband in this painting, but trust me, he's there.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave. This is amazing artwork as always.
Well, thank you, Dee Dee. This has been a spectacular broadcast, and I think Emmy Awards all around for everybody.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
By the way, Dee Dee, am I still on?
Yes.
Just to give your viewers a visual, I just want you to know I'm wearing a PIF helmet, a lovely cashmere sweater, and no pants. So I'm ready.
Thank you for the visual.
Yeah, thank you for the visual.
All right, thanks. God bless, guys. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay. So before we get to our last few few resident artists, we want to welcome our guest artist. So I know a lot of you have been waiting to hear from him. I want to introduce him. So John C. Dariatis served as an art director and curator at the Spark Museum of Art. I'm going to read your biography because I don't, it's easier. He has written and illustrated an original mythological series called Astromythos. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied because the night's dragging on, so forgive me, please. He received his bachelor's degree in illustration at the Rhode Island School of Design, otherwise known as RISD, and his master's at Hartford's Art School's Illustration MFA program. He is an active freelance illustrator, author, and adjunct professor of 15 years. His specialty is mythological art and storytelling. Classes that John teaches are Intro to Illustration, Concept Art, World Building, and Digital Painting at University of New Haven. His work has been published in film, television, video games, novels, comics, album art, board games, and trading cards. So you can imagine, he's buying dinner. Just kidding. He has worked in Hollywood as a creature effects artist and sculptor. He has displayed in solo and group shows throughout the country and is internationally acclaimed in the illustration field. He is regularly invited as a guest of honor to illustration conventions and exhibit work with the finest fantasy and science fiction illustrators in the business. So, how he came to RPAC. Now, this is an interesting story. This is actually Greg Mursto's connection, so I'll let him kind of tell a little bit about that. But I am thrilled you have accepted this invitation to share with us. Your work is absolutely incredible, and we're going to get some close-ups of it for our Facebook audience. But do you want to talk about how you met John?
Yeah, John and I, we met at WestCon. At a show, and I just happened to be there with one of my students, and we were discussing how incredible his work was. And lo and behold, I didn't even know John was standing next to me. We just started talking, and he's like, well, this is my work. And of course, I'm in awe of it. And so is my student. So we just got to know. I couldn't believe the amount of detail that was in this. I was like, this is amazing. I said, would you ever think about doing a book? And you kind of laughed. You're like, I've been working on a book for like 20 years. And I'm like, well, you know what? I said, I really love what you're doing. I said, and this is, correct me if I'm wrong. I said, I will design your book for free just because I'm inspired by his work. Right. And then he's like, oh, wow, that was really cool. That's really great. And I never heard from him. So I'm like, he probably forgot all about me. What was it, like a year and a half later? I get an email saying, hey, you remember me? And I'm like, of course I remember you. And you said, would you want to design a book? And I said, yes, and this is the book right here. I designed, with John actually designed the cover. And in the pages, I got to tell you, honestly, this is the hardest book I've ever designed, and I've designed a lot of books. Just because everything is in verse, but it is probably the most fun I've ever designed because of the images that are in here and to read it. It's an incredible book, an incredible read. I was in awe as I was designing it. And the work that John does, it's just, as an illustrator and designer, I can only dream about being as good as this and as hard at every single word in here. Just to give the audience a little idea, I would literally take one of these little sprites if I want to zoom in on that. John is so meticulous because they have to be straight. So just to mess around with John a little bit, I actually twirled it a little bit so it was off kilter about 5 degrees. And within an hour, I got a call and said, hey, on page 35, I noticed one of those sprites is a little off. That's how meticulous John is. Yeah, and I'm like, I go, man, I did that on purpose. I thought you'd never figure that out, and I couldn't get away with it. But no, he's just incredible.
I just like talking.
Yeah, that's good. It was fun. It was an awesome experience. The work is truly it's mind blowing. And talking to people here, they're just like, wow. People come up to the window, they come into the gallery just to see, wow, who is this? So, I'm going to leave it to you. I'm going to explain some of your work when you want to start. But, I'm just so glad you're here. And I got a chance to work with you. And then
I couldn't hope for
can you repeat that?
best graphic designer in the world. I couldn't hope for a better one. Seriously.
Well, I want to give you a chance to talk, and then I have some questions for you. But one of the things that I think would lead into for the Facebook watchers to introduce this amazing body of work, especially what does Astrolemos specifically mean? What is the title, and what did it mean to you? What inspired you to write this?
Astromythos is a combination of the word for star in Greek and mythology. Asteria or astro means star in Greek, and mythos just means mythology.
So they're saying that they can't hear you. Are you comfortable taking your mask off?
I'll stand back here.
If not,
You sure? Because we'll just get there.
No, okay, just.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm worried about my parents.
okay, maybe you could talk a little.
Can we move closer?
Do you mind if I, yep.
Can you hear me now? Yeah?
Yeah.
You good? Okay. So astro mythos is a combination of the words for star and myth in Greek. How's that? That's good. Good. Okay. So and those are my two passions, especially growing up and going to college, taking astronomy classes and things like that. When I was doing all these things, I always had this extreme passion for astronomy and stars and mythology. Growing up as a Greek American, first generation Greek American, I was always fascinated by mythology, especially obviously Greek myths. But then it led me to study other Greek myths and other religions and mythologies and scriptures and things, many of which I teach in my classes. Now I'm a full-time professor at the University of New Haven. I'm teaching world building this semester, and I was teaching it today before I came over here. And it's my favorite class to teach because I love mythology, and I still think it's so relevant and so important in the world today, and it inspires and excites so many people. One of my heroes is I'm sorry, I tend to trail off.
No, let's go.
One of my heroes is J.R.R. Tolkien. I became a professor because of him, and I became an author because of him. And not many people know this, but he's an illustrator as well. And I decided that I wanted to fully illustrate a book where you open it up and there's an illustration on every spread. So, and I always wanted that. I always wanted a book written for both young people and adults that is a picture book and that has awesome illustrations in it. And that's I think mostly why it took me so long to do this, because I had to illustrate over 100 illustrations, write over 200 pages of this epic poem that was completely original, that I just invented and was inspired by Homer's Odyssey. So, I have a lot to live up to. The Homers and the Slupiuses and the Herodotus. And, so it's just, that really inspired me too, my heritage.
We do have a couple of questions. They wanted to know how they can get a copy of the book.
So the book is actually in a warehouse in Colorado right now. There's thousands of them there. What happened was, because of COVID, it got held up at customs for about a month, and then the pallets were blown out. The books got damaged, so they're ordering more books. And I'm used to it at this point. It's unfortunate events, but they will be ready fairly soon. Hopefully, it will only take up to a month for them to order the books to replace those that were damaged. They do have a lot there that are intact in their inventory. They're actually sending me some of the books already, so they should be available tops, hopefully in a month or so. And it's unfortunate because they're here and they're ready to go, but they were damaged. These things happen. That's why there's insurance.
Right. And where can you buy them once they are released?
Once they are released, you can buy them on my website, which is astromythos.com. or my online publisher's site, and their name is theartorder.com.
So can they place pre-orders now in advance?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
No, it's just we're sort of in limbo. I wish they could. You know, don't get me wrong, but you just have to wait about a month or so.
To be in the waiting list for the book, we can definitely make sure that you get one when it's launched. So you've had tremendous support from celebrities, speaking of, that have been in the hub. I've seen them help you promote the book. Can you tell me a little bit more about how they found you and how that kind of came to be?
I actually just, it was a suggestion, my publisher's suggestion was to use something called Cameo, which is just something that's used for people at parties who's like pay a celebrity to come in and say hi and talk about the birthday girl or the birthday boy. But I said, maybe I can actually somehow get the Hobbits to talk about my book, which I don't think anyone has used Cameo for that reason before. And I said, well, you know, why not? What have I got to lose? It's very expensive, but I went on, I found Sean Astin and Elijah Wood and Grant McTavish from Outlander, and several others. And but those first three responded, and you know, Sean Astin said them wonderful things about my work and about the book, and about how he said he wanted to read it to his kids. And you know, that was like a dream come true for me, because I love the Lord of the Rings, I love Hobbit, I love, you know, all sorts of these world building masterpieces that inspired me to do this.
Okay, and how would you describe your process for character development and rendering?
Would you like a specific piece?
Sure, we can look at any piece that you think is a good
How
illustration.
about that one? How about this one, Photoboros?
Absolutely.
So Photoboros is the first black hole in the universe of Esther Mythos. He's a character.
Closer to the microphone, maybe?
He's the first black hole. Photoboros means eater of light in Greek. So he is this super massive star that burns really brightly but dies young. And when he dies, you can even see, you know, the beginnings of it here near his heart. He becomes a black hole, and he becomes the villain of the story. So the villains are these voids, or these vacuous creatures, called photovores, after him, Photovoros. And the good guys are the stars, you know, red stars, blue stars, stars of all different colors that unite to try to vanquish black holes. So it's a story of good versus evil. And the character design, the visuals, I designed those by thinking of, you know, what would a star look like? First of all, that was the hardest thing I could ever imagine. I hadn't seen a star design before that I really liked, or even at all. So I said, what do stars look like on the surface? So I looked at you know, Hubble telescope images and surface textures of stars, and I saw these little cells and things. So you know, coronal mass ejections and things like that. So I turned these things into cakes, into skin, into you know, flesh, and I used the features of the stars themselves as a way to anthropomorphize my characters.
Okay, thank you. I had another couple questions, if you don't mind. You know, I was looking at all of these, and I know there are rich stories behind each piece that you illustrated at a certain point. Do you want to choose one and kind of, we'll get the detail and you can tell us what's happening in the story during one of these?
Sure.
I was very curious about this
Okay, I can talk about that one.
one. Okay. Which is called
Kikla and the Arrow of Time.
Kikla and the Arrow of Time. Do you
Can
want
I
to
ask
listen?
another element to that question? Someone had asked if you could read an excerpt. Would it be appropriate to read an excerpt of that page
Sure,
related to that piece?
Yeah, I could do that. That's great.
That's a great way to
Good idea. So this is her. This is the story of Kikla. She's a warrior queen, and she's a purple star. So let me see.
Toward the end, right?
Toward the end, yeah. Oh, yeah. So,
Oh, you're not giving anything away though,
Yeah,
right?
I'll do it.
well, there might be some spoilers. So. She This is a good one. It describes the arrow of time, which is a concept that I picked up while reading Stephen Hawking. And in my story, it's an actual weapon. So it's this large arrow that's so large that it can be wielded as a spear. And it's a symbol. It's a metaphorical symbol in the story. And this is Kikla, the warrior queen, who struggles to become a queen through the entire myth. These are the photovores. These are the villains that when killed, become black holes. So she needs to wield the arrow of time and capture the arrow of time in order to slay them and survive and save her kingdom. So I'll read one of the stanzas. It says, set free the arrow, let it fly, bid it forward well to fare. Its purpose hither is fulfilled, to answer others it is yere. There's a lot of archaic language in here. The hills fell innards, down came crashing, and spilled to such a great extent. The queen, time fearing, had no choice. She swiftly acted with consent. When she let go and took his hand, the Cornovellos took his leave. Like a wild creature cupped in hands, its freedom foolish felt to grieve.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful. Now, another thing I wanted to point out to our Facebook audience who can't be here and stroll around and look is this vision of an illuminated manuscript that you have. So for our viewers, an illuminated manuscript was a way to create books. It was done a lot by monks in the 13th century, right? Correct? 13th century was illuminated manuscripts. And they were illuminated because of the use of the gold leaf. So John has taken that technique and created illuminated manuscript pages to illustrate better the myth. So there are two of them, and there's a beautiful villain in the middle, I believe, and one in the gold leaf also. And you notice this style of lettering is also in that vein of Greek letter, ancient Greek letter, correct?
Byzantine.
Byzantine, yep. So would you like to talk about why you created the illuminated
I'd be happy to.
pages?
Thank you. This is a typography that I created for the book. It's loosely based on Greek Byzantine gospel books and manuscripts. And this one right here is an illustration of my white dwarf stars, which are the wisest of stars in the universe of Mythos. They're like the stage archetype characters. And this bee specifically is really interesting because there's some real meteorite inlays in there. So it's both gold leaf, raised gilding with mordant, which is a old technique that I learned, a self-taught technique where there's craters in the bee, but there's also these little inlays. There's about 8 little meteorites in there. And it's because the meteorite characters are actually mentioned in this book, and those are characters that, sort of the foes of the white dwarf, foes of the white dwarf star. This one is the villain of my second book, which I'm writing now. He's the Pantokrator. So here's his name in Greek. The sword, also bears his title, and he's the most powerful human in the universe of Mythos in book 2. And book 1 is just the origin story, the stars and the planets and the moons, and the first moon, and how the moon became locked with the earth, and how the first comet was born, how the first red giant was born, and how she was the forbidding mother archetype. She wouldn't let her daughter was little starlet, date anyone or go out with anyone, or she wouldn't let anyone court her. And throw and hurl moons and asteroids down at them if they would try to even approach her. And so the book is filled with these, origin stories. The second book, humans, the advent of humans really changes the universe forever. And this is this powerful creature who decides that, you just start, the bad guys, the evil ones, should start consuming stars and stealing stars and even slaying them. So it becomes this big war between the stars and these human characters who follow this character and the black holes of Photovoros, who I described earlier.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to describe your work. Is there any questions from the Facebook crowd?
Nope. Other than just wonderful comments. Your work is
I'm sure.
amazing.
We'll have to write them all
You have
down.
incredible detail. You can see the love and care.
A lot of love and care.
Yep.
20 years.
There was a gentleman, I'm believing he's your relative, George.
That's my dad.
Okay, he did yell at you in the chat here. He did say, "Take the mask off, Yanni."
Yanni's that's my Greek name.
So the whole world did see it, so I figure I'll just announce it.
Like, Yanni and I are big popular. That's funny. I would, but, I'm looking up for you.
That's what you said, yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And guys, if you want to come and see John's work, it is on exhibit all the way through March
28th.
28th. You can come in at your leisure when it's, of course, not crowded. Just stop by. It's really worth the time to see the detail. Really get, up close and personal with these pieces. You'll be amazed. There's something to find in every detail. So it's amazing work, and thank you so much. Okay. Before we end, and we'll come back and show some more of his pieces after we talk about a few not leftover, that sounds bad, but a few resident artists that we haven't touched upon. One of them is Louisa Budea. We got to kind of move back here. She is actually here. Say hi, Louisa, we're passing. As we go. I'll join you. Ignore the food. We do have food here for our artists. And the wine glasses. That probably should have been cleaned up. So I want to introduce Louisa. She is one of our first artists that came on with us. We found her through a series that she had started in Ridgefield called Art on Main to really promote local artists. She was instrumental at bringing some of the artists who work with us now in and helping them find us. And she is a graduate of Hooper Union School. Louisa has been a part of, again, coordinating local art shows for Art on Main. Her art focuses on endless patterns that are prevalent in nature and studies process and patterns. So this amazing piece, Serene Silence, is on cork, and it's chalk on cork. So it is kind of her trademark spiral, and I'll let you talk about it a little bit.
Incidentally, this is a specialty paper that I picked up at New York Central Art Supply in the East Village, and I was very heartbroken to find that it closed this year, and I'll never be able to get this kind of paper again. They had an amazing paper department. There was a lot of great finds, and it was always a joy to get there. But I got this material a long time ago, and I never did anything with it. I got it because of this amazing texture that I really like, and that's been the trademark of my work. I love working with raw materials that have, inherent textures or patterns. I just find their beauty very, very enticing. But getting back to the motif that's on top of it, this all started as kind of idle doodling. I was studying, by doing, which is my way to study, by artistically reproducing the way things grow in nature. And I was really interested in the idea of creation, and kind of fascinated about how so many things in nature grow according to the Fibonacci spiral, according to some very simple mathematical, formula. This formula kind of generates such a variety of things that you wouldn't really suspect. So I did a number of these, and it's one line, it's a spiral. It usually starts in the center and it goes all the way out. And then I was looking at sort of natural forces, be it genetics or outward forces interacting with the spiral and creating all these different organisms. So this one, it has like 4 kind of spinning arms. And I have others that have 3 or that have 2 or that have 5. And the forms that they generate. And as many have, scientists and artists have noted, sea creatures exhibit these primary patterns in the most evident kind of way. So my, artwork ends up looking like some kind of sea creature. I kind of noted with surprise that you can take a sea star, which has 5 arms, and with a little genetic tweaking, you can turn it into a square. by taking out one number, it becomes 4 cornered, and it just becomes a square. Not kidding, like a little square little thing, instead of a sea star. So those things kind of fascinated me. And they started as like small doodles, like let me see what I can make out of a spiral, by acting on it. And they got bigger and bigger and bigger. And, now I have this work here. And I think my use of raw materials kind of pays tribute to the source, because I'm usually tending towards something natural. So I'm incorporating those natural patterns into the supports for my paintings and drawings.
Wonderful.
And I think that's about it.
Well, thanks, Louisa. Does anybody have any questions for Louisa?
Nope, just wonderful comments again. It's a beautiful work, beautiful piece.
Okay, if you guys can hang out for about 10 more minutes, we have a couple more artists, and then we're going to say goodnight. So
Thanks, Louisa.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, this is going to be kind of an up close because of where it's hanging in the gallery. Okay, our next painting is by James Pasteur. Okay, I'm going to ask for a little bit of space so I can take off my mask so people can hear me. Hi again. Okay, James is a painter, photographer, illustrator. James was trained at the New England Institute of Art. He's worked for Marvel, HBO, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and many more through the Union of Videographers. I think they're called something else. But he has worked for many large-scale productions and has taken pictures of many rock groups, and they're just fascinating. There's a lot of them here in the gallery as prints. But this is one of his long time, a lot of love poured into it works called Stained Glass Paint. So James uses a mixture of an acrylic pour and color and line to create a very interesting piece. He has some other pieces online that are beautiful, and you can find them at rpacgallery.com. And I'm going to just keep on moving at this point because I know we're getting long in the night. So if I can go next to Dan Barrett, who is our last exhibiting artist for this show. So Dan is also at home tonight. So I want to just mention these beautiful works by him. Dan paints not really to express his feelings, as he said, but to change and or gain an understanding of life as in the world around him. So he explores shape, color, form, and works with the paint until he finds a balance that he feels satisfies that curiosity. So these 2 pieces that he has right now is The Moment After, which is his larger piece, and the smaller piece is called Untitled Number 27. So Dan has exhibited work, done some commission jobs through RPAC. He has shown in Roatan, arts. He's just all over the place. His abstracts are amazing and emotional. I'm sorry.
The Guild.
Oh, and also at the Bridgefield Guild of Artists. Hi, Guild. And I think, you know, we're sorry he couldn't be here tonight, but you can also find a lot more of his work online at rpacgallery.com. Okay, and then the last person we just want to give a shout out to is Leslie Luciano, another one of our resident artists. She was not able to make it today, but I wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about her art. She should be showing in the next show in April. Her art explores mixed medias, oils, ink, wire, and organic materials. She is a favorite with our collectors, and we're hoping that she's doing well and having fun creating in her studio, and we definitely miss seeing her and look forward to her new works. So that wraps it up for all of our artists. I only have a couple housekeeping issues. One is our next show opens April 1st, and it is featuring, this time, a sculptor. So one of the things we like to do here at the gallery is make sure we're acknowledging all of the visual arts, illustrators, painters, sculptors, you know, however you translate your artistic medium, we like to show it. We really encourage local artists to really explore as much as they can through the visual mediums that they can express. And the last thing I want to tell you about is this guy over here. This is called Here's RPAC. Now you might be wondering why there is a large Great Dane statue sitting in the middle of our gallery. This is because through Artful Visual Arts Initiative, we are doing what is called the Bow Wow Art Dog event. So artists were able to submit designs. We secured sponsors who will then have dogs created for them through the artists that submitted. Those artists will get paid. Yeah, that's one of our initiatives. Make sure the artist does get paid. And then we will place these statues throughout town. We'll be able to have a map, go find them. We want to thank some of our sponsors, including the Bridgefield Playhouse, Guardian Veterinarian Specialties, Keogh's Hardware, Sturgis Brothers Builders, Caroluzzi's, just to name a few. I'm sure I'm missing some, and forgive me if I didn't mention you. But thank you to our sponsors so far. You can still get in on the sponsorship and have one of these amazing statues created for you through artfulgives.org, or you can call the gallery and we'll give you all the information. Again, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I know it was a little long, but we really enjoyed having you. I hope you enjoyed this. We hope the next show we will be live and in person, and you can actually come into the gallery. Maybe we'll just do a short version of a live video. If you guys enjoyed this, feel free to leave comments in the direct messaging, and we hope to see you. And don't forget to leave your email in the direct messaging so we can email you a discount code. Thank you guys. Love everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and from all the artists, we really appreciated having you to our opening.
Good night, Facebook.
Good night, Facebook.